In this video, I will introduce you to the Android action bar. Before we get to the action bar, I want to quickly add some pictures. So I've added a picture called Google PNG. So you can just go to your resources folder, go to new, and then image asset, and just add any picture there that you would like for your icon or your logo for your Android action bar. Now the next thing I want to do is to add some pictures that we will use as the items in the action bar. So I'm going to go to new, under the resources folder, go to new, and then you can go to vector asset. So I'm going to go to vector asset and make sure I'm choosing material icon there at the top and say choose. And I'm going to use the refresh one there, just say OK. And I'm going to call the picture refresh. And then just say next and finish. So I've got a refresh picture there under drawable. Let's just do that again. So we're going to go to new, vector asset again, and then just choose another vector asset there. Let's just go down a bit. Let's choose the delete one there. So we'll have the text there, delete, or the name of the resource to be delete. So we've got two pictures there, delete and refresh. Let's just do one last one there. So we're going to do the vector asset again, and I'm going to choose, let's see what we can choose here. Let's choose that one that says download. So I'm just going to call that one download. Okay, so we've got in our drawable folder, I've got a delete XML, I've got a download XML, and the refresh one, as well as the Google one. Now, what's nice about this XML file for these pictures, these vector assets, is you can actually go and change the color on it. So that's quite nice for different colors for that image that you will use in your action bar. Okay, but you can actually do anything else there with the pictures. Okay, so we've got all the pictures that we need for the action bar. And now the next thing that we need to do is to quickly add some methods in my main activity. So we need a few methods in the main activity in order for our action bar to work. So the first method that we need is the onCreate options menu. So you're going to right click there and go to generate and then override methods. And you're going to search for onCreate options menu. Just double click on it, and there you see your onCreate options menu. Then the next method that we need is the onOptions item selected method. OnOptions item selected method. So you're going to right click there, going to say generate, override methods, and start searching for onOptions item selected method. So these are the two methods that we will need in order for this specific activity to actually work on creating that options menu. And as well as when we select any one of the options or one of the items in the action bar, then we also need to have this method to see which one was clicked or selected. Okay, so we'll come back to this main activity.java later on. The first thing that we need before we can get to the coding is then to go into your resources folder, and we're going to create a new directory, and that directory must be called menu. So and then you're going to say okay, so you'll have a menu directory there, and it must be exactly the same spelling, all lowercase. So if I'm going to right click there, I'm going to say new then and say menu resource file, and then normally you call this resource file according to your specific activity that you're working with. So I'm just going to call this one main, and it will become main.xml. So I'm going to say OK. And then this is basically the main XML, which will, and you can also see there's a little screen there on the right hand side that will show us the action bar as we are actually busy working on it. So for this menus, or the items inside of the menu, we need to go and create a few items there. So I'm going to say Android, or just say item and then say Android ID. So it's very important that we have an ID here so that we can refer to it later on. So we're going to say Android ID equals the @+ID, and then use the /, and then just say the first one will be that refresh button of ours. So we're going to use the refresh one first, and then we're going to have Android title, and the title for this item will also just be refresh. Okay, so there's the title, And then we're going to have an Android order in category. I'm going to get back to the order in category later on in order to explain this one. So just hang on there a bit. And then we're going to use app show as action. And then we're going to say equals if there's room. Okay, I'm going to explain that as well. And we can just finish it off like that. So you'll see that red app there. So I'm just going to use an Alt Enter there in order to import that, or to actually add that XMLNS app part there. Okay, so there's an item. So you can see on your action bar on the right hand side, you can see that we've got that item now on the action bar. So it will basically look like this. It's going to have the refresh button there at the top. Okay, so you can see it's the title, and we should actually use the string resources, but for this example, let's just use the text there. So it's going to show refresh there. But if we want to have it shown not the title, but we want to have to show it the picture that we want to use, then we can add an Android icon property there and just set the icon. Now in this case, all of our icons that we used was inside of the drawable folder. So it's under drawable and then one of those icons, and we want to use the refresh one. So we're going to say add drawable there and then refer to refresh. So now you can see that the picture there is changed to a refresh button, or the refresh picture there. So basically what this item then does, we have an ID so that later on we can refer to it when it gets clicked. We've got the title that will say refresh, but because we are using the Android icon property there, this icon will show and not the title. But remember that there's not enough space in your action bar to show a lot of items. So if you've got 20 items or maybe 10 items or whatever, and it's too much to fit in the action bar at the top, it will go into the overflow menu. And that's why we need this title. So for every one of your items, there must be a title, so that if we go over to the overflow, that you can still show the title, because the overflow does not show any icons. So you'll see there when we say show as action, we are saying if there's room, show it as an action. So if there's room, it's going to show the icon and show it inside of this action bar. But if there's not enough room, it's going to go into the overflow, and then it's only going to show the title. Okay, so I hope you've got that concept. So I'm going to copy this quickly, and let's just do this one again. So now the second one, if you look at the pictures that we've got there, we've got a delete and a download. So let's just do the download quickly. So we're going to set that ID as download and the text as download. And then for the icon, we're going to use the download icon as well. So you can see there's the second one now on the list. Now let's do the same thing again. And we add, what was the other one, is the delete one. So we're going to have the ID as delete, and we've going to have the refresh there also delete. And then we're going to have that picture also delete. So you'll see now all three of them are fitting nicely into this action bar. But probably if I start adding a bit more there, there will not be enough space. So just remember to always have a title, and then if you want to have an icon, you can have the icon. Okay, so let's just quickly explain this order in category. So this order in category, you can see that the very first item I have there is a refresh, then download, then delete. And from left to right, it will be in that sequence. But I can move them around by changing this order in category. So I can go and say, well, let's say we want to have the delete one first. So I want to have delete first. So I'm going to leave that one at 100. I'm going to make this one 101 and that one 102, which means that delete will now be first, then it will be download, and then it will be the refresh. Okay, and then the next thing that we need to do, so we're basically done now with the main XML. Let's go back to main activity to basically set up this menu, or this menu that we've just created. So in your onCreate options menu, you're going to call the following method. You're going to say get menu inflator, and then you're going to say .inflate, and then you can see the first argument will basically be that menu that file in the menu folder that we used, which is main.xml. So we need to go to r.menu, that's the folder where we've got that main.xml. So we're going to go to r.menu.main, and then for the second argument there, you can see it wants a menu. So we just use this menu that was passed through here. So we're going to say menu there. Okay, so this will help us inflate that specific items to the action bar. Okay, so this is the method. So we're done with the onCreate options menu. Then inside of your onCreate, we need to start setting up the action bar now. So we're going to say action bar and use the Android support version 7.app. So we're going to say action bar. I'm just going to call it action bar as well, equals, and we need to get the support action bar. So that's just getting an instance of the support action bar. Now what you can do is you can also, on this action bar, if you want to, and I'm not going to do it for this example, but we can hide the action bar, and then when you're done hiding it and you want to show it again, you can just start showing your action bar again. So that's two options that you can also do on the action bar, which I'm not going to do for today or for this video, but you can go and have a look at it. So there's two methods that you can use. What we want to do now is to go to the action bar, and we're going to set an icon. Okay, and then to set the icon, okay, I've got my icon at drawable. I want to use that Google one. So I'm going to say r.drawable. And I called it Google. So you'll see there's just the G that I used there. That's the picture that I'm going to use for the action bar. And then I'm going to say action bar dot set title. And then you can set the title to whatever you want. I'm just going to say welcome. Okay, so that's the title for your action bar. And then we're going to set, now the following methods, or the two methods, is very important for your icon to actually show correctly. So you're going to say dot set display display use logo enabled, and you're going to set that value to true in order to show your logo. And then we're going to also say action bar dot set display as up enabled. No, not up enabled, home as up enabled. And then we're going to say true there. Actually, this is not the correct method. Let's just go back. It's not default, it's display. So it's going to be the set display show home enabled, this one, and then say true. Okay, so if you do not have these two lines at the bottom, your icon will actually not show. Also, your title in the action bar won't show. So just make sure that you've got these two lines. The first one is to set the display use logo enabled, and then set display show home enabled. So this is basically setting up your action bar, and we can quickly test the app. Okay, so now if you run the app, you will see basically that you've got your action bar items there at the top, and there's the little G there. So you can see this doesn't really fit with my color scheme that I've got here. So remember, because we actually used these vector assets, or these the vector drawables, we can go and change the color to fit our specific look and feel for our app. So we can go to, let's say, delete there, and we can change that full color there to maybe be, let's just change it to at color, and let's use the accent color, for instance. So now if I just run it again on the phone, let's just see if the change there. There we go. Now we've got a pink little dustbin there for the delete button. So you can change your color scheme to whatever you want. So there you can see the logo, there you can see the title, and there you can see the three different items in my action bar. Okay, so now that we've got the items in the action bar, we need to go and define what happens when we click on one of these items in the action bar. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the main activity. Let's just open it up. So in the main activity, we've got that method called onOptionsItemSelected. So we're going to go into that method and just quickly get the ID for the item that was clicked. So we're going to say int ID, equals this item that was passed through, this item object is actually the item or the item in the action bar that was clicked. So we're going to call on that one get item ID. Now this get item ID, if you go back to main XML, will return this ID that we created on the specific one that was clicked. So if we click on the pink dustbin there, it will be sending through the ID as delete. So the easiest way to do this is to just use a switch. So I'm going to use a switch and I'm going to pass in the ID, and then we can go and test for those different IDs. So we can say case r.id. And let's say it's a delete. The delete one was clicked. Then we can do something and then just break. If it was the download one, we can do something and then break. If it was the refresh one, then we can also just do something and break. Okay, so that's basically it for the items that can be clicked. So let's just test it by using a simple toast. So I'm going to say toast main activity.this, and then we're going to say delete clicked. For this one, we will say toast, and this one will be download clicked. And then for refresh, it will be refresh clicked. Okay, and that's it. So let's just quickly save there and run this application again and see the changes on the application now. So there it goes back. If I click on that delete, you can see it says delete clicked. If I click on that one, it says download clicked. And if I click on refresh, it's going to say refresh clicked. Okay, so for the last part of this video, I'm going to show you how to do the back button in the action bar. So I don't know if you've seen some applications with the back button at the top. So what we want to do now is if we click on one of these items, we're going to go to a new activity, and that activity will have the back button, which will take us back to this main activity. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize this again. So I'm going to create a new activity. Let's just make this a bit bigger. So I'm going to say new. I'm going to say activity, and I want to have an empty activity. And we can just call it main2 activity. That's fine. So there's main2 activity, and that's the activity that we want to come to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this part there for the action bar, just copy that part, and I'm going to paste it in the onCreate here. So it will basically just have a half of an action bar there. It won't have all of our icons, but it will still have this icon at the top. Okay, so that's main2 activity. Now, what I'm going to do now, because we've got this activity in the manifest, you can see that this activity has been listed as main activity 2 or main2 activity. So what we want to add in this specific manifest of ours, in order for this to work, you need to go into this activity. So there you can see the activity, and we're going to add a metadata tag for this activity, for the second activity. And then what we need here is to have an Android name property there, and we're going to use Android.support. And then we're going to use parent underscore activity. And then for the second property there, we're going to say the value, and the value there should be .main activity. And then we're going to close it down. So basically what we're saying here is to say that this main2 activity has got a parent activity, and the parent activity is the normal main activity. Okay, so this needs to be set up before you can actually do anything else. And then we're going to go back to main2 activity, and we need to add one more line there. So we're going to say ActionBar dot set display home as up enabled. This one, set display home as up enabled, and you're going to set it to true, which will help you to set up this whole thing. So let's run it again and see what happens. Actually, before we run it, let's just go to main activity, On one of these options, we actually need to call the second activity, otherwise it doesn't help us anyway. So we're going to say start activity, in brackets new activity, new intent, and then Alt Enter for your import there. The first argument this, just the context, and then the second argument the class that you want to call. So we're going to use main2activity.class to start that activity. So when we click on delete, it's going to go to this, it's going to show the toast and then go to this second activity of ours. So I'm going to save and quickly run that again. Click on delete. It goes to the second activity. Can you see there's no action bar icons there because we didn't set up a file in the menu folder, but you can see the back button. And now if I click on back, it will go back to my main activity. So delete goes to the second activity, the back button there takes me back to the home activity. So that is all set up in this Android manifest file with this metadata tag to tell it basically what is the parent activity of this activity, and then you just need to add this one line there to make sure it shows. And that's it for the action bar.